Hi guys, how's it going? I'm having a little bit of a slow day, as you can probably tell in my eyes. I'm tired, so it's been really hot here in Florida, and that has been impeding on my sleep. But it's fine, it's okay. Still, regardless, I thought I'd show up today and share a little win of mine. Now, I think I've said this before, and I often say I've said this before in my other videos, that I am kind of a late bloomer to things, or it took me time to blossom. So that being said, I have like a win, but it's one that I think people have amounted to much sooner than I. I got approved for a credit card. Yeah! Woo! I think maybe this is kind of embarrassing to share, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm sure there's someone out there in my situation, in a similar situation, and yeah, so I received approval, and that's really awesome, and I look forward to being part of the system. Totally. So that, yeah, I guess, like, I think it's important to count your wins, and be it small doesn't really matter. I think the fact that you go into life accepting the burden and the toll and the expectations and demands that are brought onto you, regardless of the choice of being brought into this world, is commendable. Come on, you didn't fucking ask to be here, but you are. And for you to own up to it and to be part of this society and to play a role is something that is worth giving kudos to, because it's not fucking easy. You didn't ask for this. And so maybe that's a cool segue into how I believe there is I don't believe in practicing any philosophy, any belief, anything really in its extremity. And oftentimes, isn't it the phrase, too much of a good thing or too much of anything isn't good? Of course, that being said, that falls under the umbrella too much of a good thing is not good. So I love not stoic philosophy, but one that pertains to the detachment of certain societal expectations, or like, and I often take shots at capitalism and what it's done to us and all that good stuff. And it's good to kind of ground yourself or dissociate, but that being said, it should be in moderation. This is a very expansive subject to me, at least, because of how I framed it. I think moderation is an individual's language, and I think the universal language is gonna sound so. This is gonna be everywhere today, but the universal language is mathematical, kind of. No, it is mathematical to me, and I think individuality represents. It's funny because my last video was like, hey, individuality is a notion of consumerism, and we use it to profit off, and they use it to profit off of us. But at the end of the day, what's so beautiful about the existence of everything is that it is oneness, and that oneness is an amalgamation of individuals being us. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And try to close the gap between that and kind of the point I was making with practicing something in its extremity. So I love the philosophy of kind of detaching from the reality of things and the things that are really, in a big picture, trivial and unnecessary. I mean, dude, what the fuck is a FICO score? I don't know. But yeah, but I also think, on the other hand, for me to deracinate myself from all of this and live a life that is completely against the grain is not really, dare I say, beneficial. And I mean this in a very applicable sense. I think that in the era and this whole thing that I'm saying is also, I mean, a constituent of it is spirituality, and I like to believe that whatever point of time you've landed in is intentional. So if you are born in this era, in this generation, then it is intentional. And where you are in the location too, that's intentional, of course. So your existence, if it's part of something that has a community and a society, then I think it's important to play that role. And I'm not talking in the traditional sense, of course. We've redefined what it means to be a parent, especially, but a child and a sibling and a friend, and a coworker or whatever it may be. These are roles that we have apparently been assigned, but these can certainly be redefined as well, because some of them aren't met with healthy expectations. So, I don't think it's great to practice anything in its extremity, especially because I like to believe that we are born at a certain point and there is some intention and reason behind it. And I think it's important to adhere to it, because in doing so, there is benefit to you. And maybe I'll test my theory. Maybe I will, like I said, deracinate myself from the common life and come on. I honestly do have a dream to kind of live on an island for 6 months, not do anything. I wonder how that would pan out. How would I feel? But anyway, kind of going back on the bigger subject here that's hovering over all of this. Math or moderation, individuality, singularity, unity, all of that good stuff. I think that the universe's true language has to be something mathematical, because I think it encompasses different facets of culture and people. It's and it's a representation of something that is, a lot of people who are inclined mathematically are inclined in a more theoretical sense sometimes. I mean, the explanation is that there are hard answers to math. It's not objective, it's logic. So maybe that's why I like to believe that math is the ultimate language of the universe. And I think, I've thought about this a lot, that like moderation is like, it represents the person, the man, the person. And we all have, I feel like what's so beautiful about humanity, we all have experienced very similar tribulations. We've all tasted love and loss and grief to some extent. And that is what inspires empathy out of us, of course. But at the same time, it's at different percentages. So we're moderated in a way, and that's what's beautiful about us. And this is where I kind of plug in my own understanding of how the universe works. But when you kind of go through the rite of passage of moving from this life to the next, and where you stand in the afterlife is dependent on, I guess, the moderation of who you are. Like, and maybe I'm not making too much sense, but I just think that, like, there must be something out there to comprehend the individualistic nuances we are composed of. Holy shit, maybe this is way too tangential from what I started with. but there must be something out there that gets us in the most nuanced, idiosyncratic sense, down to the detail. So yeah, anyway, I wish I could kind of make a circular point of all of this, but I do think this is a governing notion that can envelope what I was saying earlier, which is, you don't want to go through too extreme in terms of pulling yourself out of societal demands and expectations, and you also don't want to be, I mean, that doesn't even have to be repeated. I think it's a common conversation now to be crazy invested in that sort of reality, to be part of the matrix or whatever, or cog in the machine, something like that. But what I love about this generation so much is that it really does recognize that. It recognizes individuality and respects it. A lot of people dog on Gen Z because of, I honestly think that's low-key kind of propaganda. Yes, there is some truth to it, that there might be some things about Gen Z that are underdeveloped and need some revision, maybe like the cancel culture or something. But even then, I don't know, I feel like the ramifications of cancel culture is, most of the time, makes sense. But anyway, some things can, there's always room for improvement. But what I love so much about Gen Z is that it recognizes the quality of life. you know, and it respects the individual, and it gives space to, I guess not just minorities, but I get it's not just the minorities, but other demographics or other archetypes of people. Give space, and the quality of life is something I want to expand on a little bit too, because it kind of portrays what a balanced life should be, and that we should be actively rebelling against those who profit off of us and keep us in the loop and keep us in the system for their own benefit. We often say eat the rich. And, you know, I don't know, like, I hear from a lot of fuck ass millennials, like, oh, social media's an echo chamber and you guys are just not fucking. I mean, what we are promulgating on social media, at least on my For You page, is I got hope core, baby. I got a lot of hope core. I've got, like on my For You page, plenty of conversation comprised of, I don't know, progressive attitudes and just good things to remember, to love about yourself, and to notice, to kind of slow down in life. Gen Z, even though they're so rich in humor and can be kind of quirky in that way, to me, I think I don't know, I'm on the older spectrum of Gen Z. I guess, we, acquire maybe kind of an old soul identity. We kind of cherish values that people later in their life remind us to cherish, to slow down, smell those fucking flowers, and enjoy the people around you. And it is important to foster good, healthy relationships. And life isn't always about money. Life isn't always about being beautiful. Although, we kind of teeter on that, because on the other hand, the consumerism end of looks and how important that has become. I mean, it's been rampant, honestly, in any era of civilization nearly. So I can't really blame the generation that much. We do our best. I mean, we've also, within the culture, have given room to diversity that wasn't really a thing from when I was in high school too much. I mean, it was new, but it wasn't that much of a thing. I mean, to be celebrated for having different features, for my larger nose, or for different skin colors, for just, that wasn't always, it was Eurocentric, it was pedophilic. Honestly, fuck it, I'm just gonna say I'm on my period, so I'm a little bit more aggressive, but it was back then. And that I made a video about how men have exploited women, and it was my prose about feminism, and I wanted to say that some of the features that they pine after and they expect women to meet it is economical, a lot of it, if you look at it historically. It is also Eurocentric, and it is fucking pedophilic. I wanted to avoid that word because I was like, I don't know if I should keep this channel, like I should have some discretion here, but fuck it, it's my channel. I will bring it to attention as much as I please. So yeah, I mean, my goodness, we are talking about so many different things left and right, but yeah, so beauty might be something that's going to be an ongoing conversation for the rest of the existence of humanity, I fear. But yeah, anyway, all in all, I think Gen Z is progressive in ways that the former prior generations, they weren't. And I just get kind of annoyed at how much Gen Z is shat on. Like, be so for real. Like the things that we speak about, the things we speak up on, were never even a conversation to begin with. So anyway, here's to getting my credit card. Here's to that. I am excited about that. I think honestly, if I'm telling you, it's as good as feeling pretty, to be doing something correct, to be doing something right. I get what it must feel like to be a fucking homeowner instead of renting a house. Like, there is some sense of pride to that, and I think I owe it to myself to be proud of myself, because at the end of the day, even though I kind of succumb to the system by adhering to the maintenance of my credit score and whatnot, what can I do? I'm trying to benefit. I'm trying to get better too. So yeah, and I think this is a constant philosophical or value-based war that I deal with, and not to sound like I live in this other echelon of thinking, and and I always say this, I don't mean to sound righteous or anything, but really, if you ask me, like, a lot of the time I spend, like, I don't spend when I'm alone, like, not ruminating necessarily, but definitely, like, I don't know, thinking about these things on the more existential level, I suppose. But again, I don't want to sound like motherfucking like Jaden Smith. Like, I'm not saying like let's talk about the what is it, the socioeconomic or the political whatever. I don't mean to sound like that, but if I'm being honest with you, like my mind does tend to wander in that or in the within that library of conversation or subjects. Like, it's just, yeah, it's a lot to think about, because, like, I think for me the most important thing has always been integrity. uh just and that was kind of hammered into my head the day I decided I wanted to pursue screenwriting, because I know I had to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with all my heart. I'm going to do it with as much all the courage I have in my heart. So integrity has always been a big characteristic in my life, and so I just, it's I guess I have this war with myself that while it, like, going back to what I had started the video with, like, to get that credit card is a great thing on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, hey, what kind of world do we live in, where I have to do this, and not have to, but like it's if I don't, like, it kind of limits my opportunities. And so, yeah, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, I've spoken enough, but thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, rest of your week. I'm about to go hang out with my friend and have a really fun night because it's Friday. Yeah. All right, guys. Bye. Take care.